Man's Inner Guide by Lou Millette. Originally appearing in Azoth magazine. Narrated by Matthew Schmitz. The era of emancipation from the thraldom of woeful worship is dawning. Man is no longer content with man-made creeds. His heart cries out for freedom. He feels something stirring within his being, something akin to what he has been taught to look upon as a faraway ruler of righteousness. Indeed, a supreme ruler of earth and sky whose nature is divine, though at times vindictive, violently provoked, and furiously inclined. By the application of common sense, man has learned to discriminate between false teachings and true knowledge. He is no longer held in bondage by the voice of fear. He feels surer of himself on matters of deeper importance for the welfare of his complex being. And, though his thoughts clash with the antiquated beliefs of priest and prince, his better judgment tells him not to worry about what these self-styled rulers of men declare they will do to him if he dares to laugh, to scorn their decalogues of rotting rules of conduct and testaments of overinflated and tyrannical catechisms of obedience. These welcome signs of individual awakening point to a further realization on man's part that what others have done in the past and are doing in the present, he can also do. If the great law of impartial justice still operates with the mathematical precision for beast and man, then truly nothing is impossible of achievement, and no power is too sacred to be totally ignored for fear of incurring the ill will of a touch-me-not potentate. Thus it is that man reasons and speculates on the possibilities and hidden potencies of his heretofore neglected better nature. He has chosen to burn midnight oil for the explicit purpose of finding out for himself whether the promptings of the heart are of more value to him in the actual living of a life of peace than are the unreasonable requests of a veritable host of greedy and dominant impostors. As a direct result of this novel attitude of mind toward things that were usually taken as a matter of course, because of an existing belief that regal mantle and cap and gown were the only duly assigned administrators of godly justice, man has risen above the level of vicarious service, and by crawling out of his limited shell of physical dependence, with his eyes open to the light of truth that is streaming through his soul, he has reached the plane of a higher understanding and resolved to do his own thinking, come what may. This resolution has transformed the mortal man of flesh and bones into a creature of renascent reality. It has made of him a son of God in the making. It has given him the strength to overcome the evils in his own nature and align himself with the constructive forces for the greatest good of downtrodden and deceived mankind. The words of Pope ring true in his ears because they voice a statement of a high caliber and comforting hope. Man, know then thyself, presume not God to scan. The proper study of mankind is man. Man is literally letting the dead past bury its dead. He has given up worrying about the final outcome of life. His better nature tells him that all is well with the world, and all the world is watching and waiting for the coming of the Son of God that has come to life within him. Realizing this for the first time in his life, this Son of God within man has virtually and truly become a tangible asset to man, and through man is gradually unfolding the secrets of all the ages past, placing, as it were, the keys of the mysteries of being within his ready reach, and impelling him to search the depths of his own nature for the priceless heritage of enduring riches. The peculiar inner urge that men felt now and then has become a vivid sense of conscious awareness, and the thing called consciousness is no longer a bugaboo of terror, but is, instead of this, a voice of lovable and delightful helpfulness, a great friend in the hour of need, and a constant companion possessing prestige and power, plus the courage to do things in accordance with those standards of conduct which are the visible symbols of an all-knowing inner guide. And thus, vagary, vacuity, and vacillation of mind have been superseded by the holy trinity of intuitive conviction, divine inspiration, and steadiness of aim in the quest of wisdom. High-sounding titles are no longer necessary to place man in touch with the reality within his being. Education is to be desired and striven for with determination of purpose and singleness of aim, but it does not really matter whether man has matriculated from the ranks of nobility or from the files of earthly limitations. If his heart is pure and his mind free from bias, he will be received with open arms by the teachers of mankind and be dealt with impartial goodwill and loving interest in whatsoever channel he may choose to sail. No one will be able to thwart his plans. No one will succeed in weaning him away from his ideal. Likewise, having his whole nature attuned to unselfish love, he will render a creditable account of himself ere his inner guide calls him to other labors. With his mind centered on the upliftment of the race and his thoughts trained to respond to the call of the directive will within him, he will soon soar to the heights beyond the commonplace, and, casting a loving glance over the panorama that greets his newborn sight, he will gladly forget his passion for place and pledge the best part of his nature to the great cause of truth. To such a one, pleasure is hidden in service, and happiness is extracted from the perplexing and puzzling duties of the day. Being free to function on many planes of human need with consciousness aroused and the will set for any trial or care, this resurrected being strikes out in boldest fashion for the hilltops of superior achievement and synthesized virtue. He knows the cost of sorrow because he has experienced it. He knows the price of selfishness because he himself was formerly selfish. And now that he understands the purpose of the plan that his inner guide laid out in the beginning, he is ready to bear every trial and share every sort of joy found by the wayside of life. Having passed through the refining fire of personal experience and burned off the ragged edges of his selfish nature of his own free will and accord, he is now glad to tell the world something about man's true relationship to his inner guide and to the invisible intelligence that causes him to live and move and have his being on earth. The sublime sentinel guarding the fort of man's heart is none other than his inner guide. This is the meaning of reality. Man's real self stands for it. The true God of man's being is the divine voice rooted in the core of his inner nature. This living and loving reality is in man to inspire and assist him whenever there is need. Man can, if he so chooses, manifest the presence of his inner guide, this God within him, to the world about him. He has it within his power to grow more and more like him, and not only reflect the divine image and likeness of his indwelling master, but too, he can become a living counterpart of all that his inner guide stands for. That is, love, light, divinity, wisdom, understanding, truth, honor, courage, youth, freedom, and the countless and numberless other characteristics that voice the immanence of God in man's being. What the God in man is, man can become. What man's inner God stands for, man can translate into action while yet in the body of flesh. He does this by a resolute firmness of mind, and by growing like his inner guide, the true God of his soul, he conquers every foe, overcomes every obstacle in his path, and meets every lion on the way face to face with the coolness that bespeaks superiority of knowledge and supremacy of intuitive conviction. Even death has no terror for him. He knows that death is but a talisman of a new and better beginning with friends and loving companions in receptive attitude of mind and welcoming preparation of soul. Through his schooling, he has learned to smile upon the great reaper when the hour of his emancipation from physical embodiment strikes. His training has enabled him to raise his action to the higher level of conscious unification with his indwelling guide, the Christ power within his being. It is man's inner guide that cries out for freedom. It is this voice that speaks in the silence of man's soul with the courage that is born of conviction. This is the presence that says, I am resolved. No autocrat, no despot shall coerce my liberty. No tyrant nor dominant ruler shall claim my freedom. No vile wielder of bloody weapons shall break my godlike will. These gifts are mine, to use with judgment and discretion for the greatest good of impoverished and enslaved humanity. Again, and with like force, the real self sings its song of freedom on the altar of independence. Realizing that all power is his to use, he summons every atom of activity to the fore, and with newborn eloquence registers its pledge of honor on the sensitive plate of universal permanence. His first and foremost promise is, I will serve and do my best. And then the voice of invincible definiteness gives form to the inner guide's code of confidence thus. Opportunity, O port of unity. O port of unity, I recognize the force that power of will now dares capsize, and that the central eye of mind and brain fears neither fate nor chance, nor fire nor rain, but works and waits secure upon its throne, and with steadfast calm starves the worthless drone, that leans on limbs of straw and walks on sand, the blindest bully on this mighty land, of wealth and opportunities galore, a land enriched by things that men adore, filled from base to brim with the golden grain that man produces with his inner brain, when once awakened by the might and power of soul confined in mind's creative tower, wherein dwells the spirit that controls and gives direction to all living souls. O port of unity, I will to solve the deeper problems that my eyes convolve, in bold attempts to twist my soul and brain into a shapeless mass of thoughts that drain my heart of love and cause my will to swerve from the chosen course that mankind would serve, to bring to naught my once selected goal and cause myself to drift on arid shoal, until the spark of life shall hope no more to earn its passage to the fairer shore, where neither time nor tide control the day, nor mortal shams the hands of justice stay, a kingdom that is ruled by right and light, instead of carnal lusts that fight to fright, in selfish hopes hidden in a weazened brain, that righteous complement that weak minds contain. O port of unity, I now resolve to live my life so that I may absolve my inner self from thoughts that have been lame, and never again refill my heart with shame, the shame that's heaped through ignorance of truth upon the plastic brow of carefree youth, as well as on the heads of sinners old, who paid no heed to what their I had told, with pangs of bitter pain and stress of sin, and through the warnings of their kith and kin, seeking to enlighten a shiftless mind by pointing out the path that men must find. In the central midst of a dried-up brain, whose jewel in the heat of strife has lain, until its priceless grandeur has been lost, and petty man has had to pay the cost. Opportunity, O port of unity, you and I are one. Let us now live and love and serve until our work is done. From the above, it is evident that man must become more than man before it is possible for him to get in tune with his inner guide, or real self, or God. His first cue is to understand that man is not real until he finds out what that something is that makes him a man. That in order to manifest the God presence, he must possess the power to dare assert his individuality, meaning, of course, his inner convictions. He must know whereof he speaks. He must possess the courage to do the things he knows he ought to do, at all times and places, under all circumstances and conditions. Moreover, he must possess the disposition to keep silent in order to protect the interests of humanity and add moral force to the spirit of the age in which he lives. Man must learn that manifestation is but retardation of motion, This definition lifts the veil from the mystery of creation by interpreting for man the essential meaning of the biblical statement, "Before Abraham was, I am." Let not him that seeketh cease from his search until he finds. Verily, then, an ideal conception is but an arrested reality. Substance is immanent in matter, though its vibratory rate of motion is walled in and lies latent until the outer gets in tune with the inner and establishes unity of natures. At the point of balance, an harmonic relationship nullifies the resistance exerted over the indwelling reality and allows the substance to leap forth to freedom. Therefore, that which has been manifested may be easily and readily reproduced, but that which is ideal defies the brain and skill of him who possesses no key to its invisible potentiality. The logical deduction is self-evident, and anyone possessed of normal intelligence will agree that it is not hard to do something when another has pointed out the way. But the worth of a man lies in his ability to initiate that which is latent in the secrecy of his being and in the universe about and around, under and over him, leaving to other less gifted mortals the mockery of imitation and the shallow consolation derived from a covetous sense of profiting through the initiative power of the Creator's superior brain, man's inner guide. In closing, a quotation from a poem entitled "As Above, So Below" will not, it is hoped, go amiss. It is appended for what it may yield in points of inspirational appeal. Let him who heareth the voice of man's inner guide stop, look, and listen before he chances to return to other labors. If anyone dare doubt what the awakened eye reclaims, or what the thinking mind and common sense proclaims, by that very token to show how little it really knows of fundamental laws beneath the very wind that blows, it is our hope that such a one will start its kind at once to investigate the hidden powers of mind, in whose choice keeping man's essential I he'll find, saying, "And lo, I that am your king, patiently await your soul's awakening."